Good evening, everybody. My name is Raymond Sexton. I'm the Executive Director of the Lexington Human Rights Commission, and I appreciate Melanie's invitation to speak to you all tonight. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. Our office is the local governmental office that investigates discrimination complaints in the areas of employment, housing, and public accommodation. Under employment, housing, and public accommodation, one of those categories that it's protected is disability. It's, obviously, you know, it's against the law to discriminate against somebody based on the fact that they're disabled or regarded as disabled or even may have a record of impairment. But we were contacted by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, one of our federal partners, to do something locally. Actually today, I believe that today is the actual anniversary date of the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's the 25th anniversary, and to commemorate that, this Thursday we're going to be having an event at Arts Place in downtown on North Mill Street, where we're going to celebrate the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have individuals from the federal sector, which would be the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, coming down. We're going to have the state ADA coordinator is going to be speaking, as well as Independence Place, an attorney, and some individuals from UK. And what we kind of hope to do, we're going to start off with a historical perspective of the ADA, kind of looking from its passage all the way up to current date, and then we're going to have a big panel discussion. And the panel discussion, you know, we realize with this law, just like every law, there's not every law is perfect, and certainly ADA is one of those laws, but we're going to kind of look at what's been good about the ADA and what we can do to improve on it going forward. So it's going to kind of looking back, moving forward kind of event, and it's free. It's open to the public. Doors are it's from 1 to 3. Doors are going to open at 12:30, and we're going to have a reception beginning at 12:30 where people can mingle, you know, and kind of network. And the event will begin promptly at 1 o'clock. And we're going to have free parking at Victoria Square Garage at North Broadway and Short Street, and for any individuals with disabilities, there will be some parking set aside for them as well. So we hope to see you there. It should be a pretty interesting event. A lot of discussion about the law and how it's worked wonders and how it's kind of fell short. Also, as far as the Human Rights Commission, we let you know that we are out there. If you come across anything, individuals with disabilities that are having a hard time finding shelter, finding a home, getting a job, or even if they go into, you know, somebody with a wheelchair that goes into a public place and it's not accessible, we're the ones to actually investigate that. And our investigation, it doesn't cost anything to go through our process. Melanie was one of our former commissioners, and you all know Vibrant Forsyth. He is one of our current commissioners. We have a board of 14 commissioners. We're currently about 4 members shy. We have a board of 14, but we're currently 4 members shy. So anybody, we like to represent all the communities that we serve, whether it be race, color, sex, religion, disability. So certainly, if you live in Lexington and would like to serve on our board, we'd be welcome to take your applications. I was asked what it would require to be on our board. There's 2 forms you need to fill out. One of them is a board interest form for the Human Rights Commission, and another one is a record check. It's just standard. So any individual who's interested, I've passed around my card, my email's on that. Just shoot me an email, and if anybody has any questions, you know, if you want to go to the event, please RSVP if you can. If you forget to RSVP, please don't let that stop you from coming, because we won't turn anybody away, because we're kind of putting on a show for our federal partners, so we would like to see as many people there as we can. So that would be it. But I'll entertain any questions.
Well, and the Americans with Disabilities Act is not just for physical disability. They kind of went through a kind of a reiteration in the past 5 years, where they're looking at issues around learning and language, you know, additional areas in addition to physical disabilities. I think that's really when I remember when I read it, I was like very excited, because it's I love to see access for somebody with a physical challenge, but I also with my own son, I always was worried about being able to have him have access to things from a understanding perspective. And
Sure.
so I always love that.
And it's also meant to break down stereotype barriers. I mean, the three definitions are having a substantially limiting condition, whether it be physical or mental. The second one is having a record of an impairment. So you could have cancer, but be in remission, but there's that record of having that cancer. So there's that. And then there's also regarded as. You could be not disabled, but somebody says, well, okay, you're having a hard time lifting that. You must have a back issue. We're not going to, see you later. And also federally, but not statewide or locally, like the EEOC's got into that GINA stuff, genetic information, whereas the employer would go in and get your genetic information about your employee or your family history and use that against you. So they're starting to get into that as well.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What can be done about the fact that wandering autistic children have nowhere to play in Lexington?
Nowhere to play, like?
Nowhere. All of the parks, none of them have fenced-in areas, and that's unsafe for a child who wanders like mine. Sure. So whenever I go out with him, I always have to take somebody with me. I can never go alone because I can't chase him. So
certainly that would be something.
And we used to go to the area in the mall, but we were actually told to leave that area because my son is too tall. So
they thought he was older.
He wasn't bothering anybody, but they told us he was too big for the equipment, and they made us leave. So that was the last safe place that I could find for him to play.
Now something like that would be just probably lack of information from our local officials, because that's something I never realized. And that would be petitioning the Urban County government to take a look at the parks. And
there's a petition.
There is a petition.
Yeah.
There's a petition for Jacobson Park when they remodel it to have an inclusion park.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you just shoot me, that's certainly something that our office could get behind and champion. If you just shoot me an email.
Okay, I can do that.
And I can certainly talk to some of the allies that we have on
yeah, it's very important to me.
Yeah.
Because right now my son has no safe place to play. So.
That's a good point.
Any others?
This isn't really a question, but I worked on a video, and I've been speaking with Sarah in your office, Brown Black or something like that, and they're actually going to show this video that we produced at HDI on customized employment for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
very cool.
I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to be there.
Very cool.
You guys should come.
Okay.
Good.
I might not be able to just because I have class and work. Yeah.
Well, the video is not going to be shown till 3. They didn't want to take up any time. I guess there's let's tack this on.
Yeah.
My class goes till 3:40.
Oh, that's cool.
So, in Richmond. It's 12,
Do you have
12:30 to 3:40.
a website or a link?
I think the person that puts it on the website is going to be back to work tomorrow.
Okay.
So, but I'll put it out on the
I like
ASBG
that.
list.
Yeah, we'll link it on our website,
Okay.
Facebook. And all
Okay.
that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're on
Well,
Facebook.
we just finished the video, so good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm
good.
really happy you guys are listening.
Cool, I'm adding you on Facebook. I go by a fake name on there.
Oh,
I'll let you know in a message.
okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, certainly we do trainings. We do, if you ever want training for any organizations or just about fair housing, because in addition to the disability thing, what do you all have in common? Children. You have children. Some people mention they have children under the age of 18, which a lot of people don't know. When you go to in housing only, if you go to rent an apartment and they discriminate against you based on the fact that you have younger children, that's against the law. So there's a lot of things you have to think about.
I didn't actually know that one.
I didn't know that either.
I knew that one, but I have a little one, so.
All right.
Since you mentioned training,
I've been
I'll
running
ask.
for years too.
I had a very nice email to the website a couple days ago from the police department saying, can you give us any guidance regarding training programs that might better prepare the police force to work with people who have autism?
Awesome.
It was a fabulous email.
I would like to participate in that. I
Okay.
have some ideas.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I
I have a lot of ideas actually, because I have a son who wanders, so,
sure.
yeah.
Well, Wendy had some real good suggestions, and I'll send that to you.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your office, have you ever had a request like that, or would you have any advice regarding training to the police department?
Yeah, actually, we're not necessarily to autism, but one of our sponsors is the Commission on Citizens with Disabilities, and I was contacted just for our appearance there from a deaf individual who was interested in getting with the police department because they've had some bad experience, like cuffing a deaf person behind, not in the front, and some issues like that. So we're going to get with the police department and kind of help facilitate, get the police department together with the deaf community and kind of get some better training with that. So one of our statutory missions, we're better known for our investigation unit, but what we try to do is kind of develop harmonious relationships between different sectors of the community. So if we can't provide the training, certainly we can help facilitate and get you to the correct organization to get the training needed.
I like that you mentioned the deaf community because I'm currently taking ASL classes to help my son.
Okay.
And so I'm learning a whole lot about the deaf community, and the deaf community and the autism community have so much in common. And the issue with working with police is a common issue. So, yeah.
And then we do provide diversity training. A lot of people think of diversity as the race, the black versus the white issue, but we try to encompass our diversity training to include all the categories that we deal with, like religious, disability, sexual orientation, things of that nature. So certainly if you have any questions about future trainings or need to hook up with somebody, just let us know.
Yeah.
That's cool. Exciting.
Awesome. Thank you.
I apologize. I can't stay. I have to run to a next
thing.
But I appreciate it. But I hope to get on your email because we want to go to the walk. We want to be present at the
And
walk
I'll
in
email you
September.
the information.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You know what, I'll take one too.
There's another paper over there.
He's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Can I take one of those?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, what?
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Be sure everybody gets one. Pretty much everything that I'm going to cover in this presentation is some way, shape, or form in the information in the handbook. But if there's something that's not, my business card's in there. Feel free to shoot me an email. That's typically the easiest way to get a hold of me. For those that don't know me, I'm Justin Harville. I'm the Volunteer Services Director for Special Olympics Kentucky. I oversee a little bit more than what my title entails. I oversee all of our volunteer aspects for the state, recruitment, screening, background checks, things of that nature. Also oversee our coaches education program, our athletes leadership program, and also oversee all the technology and database maintenance. So obviously to run the program that we do statewide with 16 staff members, we hold a lot of different hats. But love doing it, and give you a little bit of background. I'm originally from just south of Dayton, Springboro, Ohio. Came down to play soccer at Georgetown College and graduated with a degree in communication psychology. Before leaving there, after injury, I started coaching the head reserve women's program, and then I was also very active with refereeing soccer. That was my passion, was actually refereeing more than anything, but injury took me away from that as well. I've been with Special Olympics for 4 years now, and it's been an awesome ride that is not looking like it's going to end anytime soon, which is awesome. Sherry asked me to bring some information to you about our Unified Sports program, and what I'd like to do is cover a little bit of that,
but also get you up to where that Unified Sports Program came to be and where we are within the state of Kentucky and also globally. Right now we're in an exciting time. We are actively in our World Games time. We're out in LA for World Games with a little over 7,000 athletes from 158 countries. So it's really neat. 4 of our athletes are participating with Team USA and things of that nature. So I'd like to start with obviously our mission. It's rather long. I do not have it memorized, and for that reason I've underlined some of the key aspects of our program. One is that we're the largest sports training and athletic competition organization in the world. So when you associate the Special Olympics ball with us, it should be same and simultaneous as with the MLS logo or Major League Baseball, anything of that nature. So we've gone through a rebranding so that recognition is in place there. Children and adults with intellectual disabilities. And then obviously the second part of it goes more into the participation and sharing of gifts, skills, the community side, which brings in the Project Unify and Unified Sports in there. So a few world and community perceptions. A lot of us, how many in the room obviously think that we're a one-day program? Nobody. Good. And also, I'm very laid back. If you've got questions, throw your hand up. Throw something at me if I don't see you. But obviously a lot of the initial perception is that we're a one-day event, which we were. We started in 1968 with one woman's vision that individuals at that time with mental retardation could do more, that they were physically and mentally capable of showing their peers in the world that they are equal, that they are no different than you or I, physically and things of that nature. So that was a one-day event. Track and field and swimming was the initial sports. But in reality, we are a very unique organization that has competition for all ability levels, which is an item that we call divisioning. Divisioning is kind of at times a picky topic, very picky at times, especially with our team sports, because divisioning runs off of 3 divisioning factors: age, sex, and ability. Ability being the primary divisioning factor. So obviously you might have a basketball game going on that might have somebody that's 8 years old and then also a 20-year-old. But ability level, they are capable of competing against each other. So that's where you would see it. That obviously at the World Games and things of that nature where we're at right now, with the more athletes available, you'll see that age and sex being a little bit more separated. So you'll have that soccer team that's all 8 to 15 years of age, things of that nature. But divisioning does come into play a lot, and a lot of questions do come up. Is this athlete able to move up a division for sports, team sports? And some of it is that they might not understand the rules, but they can slug it to the fence with softball. So safety-wise, they're up a division, which obviously we all have events that are developmentally set to move athletes up. So there's always some sort of developmental event within that. We always say, though, that we'd rather not have developmental events because that means all of our athletes have developed into higher competition, higher ability levels, and things of that nature. So, and the last unique item is awards. All of our athletes will have no more than 8 in a division and no less than 3. So all athletes will receive a 1st through 3rd medal, and then the remaining placements will receive ribbons. Everybody sometimes thinks that we provide ribbons no matter what. That's not the case. We do provide a ribbon, but it might sometimes be participation. So an athlete that maybe runs outside their lane in track, they're going to get DQ'd because we're a sports training and competition organization that runs off the national governing body of rules. That brings us to the next part. For us to be able to use the term Olympics in our name, Special Olympics and Paralympics, we're 2 separate organizations. Sometimes we coincide, sometimes we do not. Perfect example. Anybody seen the ESPN spots on TV? Nothing? Oh my goodness. Opening ceremony.
My husband watches.
Okay.
My husband watches
This year,
ESPN,
it was the first time that we had our opening ceremonies at our World Games televised. So that was on Saturday night. And then they're also doing a 30-minute spot every night right now at 7 o'clock. To give you just kind of overview of the day's games, and then they'll have some stories and things on that nature. But there's an athlete out of Canada that everybody knows as Moose. If you've gone to any of the USA games, you know Moose and things of that nature. But Moose participates in Special Olympics because he does have an intellectual disability. But he also holds the deadlifting record for this country of Canada. So he deadlifted, I think it was 600, it was over 600 pounds deadlift. So they do overlap. We have athletes that compete in the mainstream as well. The difference is obviously intellectual disabilities. Paralympics is some sort of physical disability, and then Olympics are athletes and Paralympics athletes participate in the Olympics? Yes. It was proven with a guy out of Africa for that, which will not be said. Both of us are recognized by the International Olympic Committee. So the change, 1960s, sports training competition as a foundation. Today we're a movement of building communities of inclusion and acceptance. So we're changing attitudes. Can I give you a brief example? This on the left is a picture from Soldier Field at the first games. Anybody see something weird about the pool? Besides that it's 3 feet deep. It's in the middle of a stadium, baseball field, but completely along his side, I wish Viber was here because he would go on about this. At that time, they did not think an individual with mental retardation could not swim the length of a pool. So those are lifeguards that walked side by side. There's multiple lifeguards.
All those guys standing up are all lifeguards?
Yes.
But they got bored.
Yes, they did. And now at any one of our events, we'll have one lifeguard. That's it. So it's a big change to where that time of day where people automatically just assumed that they couldn't physically do it, that wasn't able to do. To where we are now, this is a picture from opening ceremonies on Saturday of, it was a great time of inclusion and unified partners participating, coaches of all nationalities and coming together as one. The lighting of the torch took place from an athlete from, I believe it was Iran to Afghanistan to America to Cuba to light the torch. So it's definitely a mission of building those communities. So a couple of quick facts. We are a movement of 4.4 million athletes right now. 80% of that 4.4 is outside the United States. Within the world, it is estimated that roughly 200 million individuals have intellectual disabilities. So do we have a long way to go? Yes, but we are getting there. When I started 4 years ago, we were at just over 2 million worldwide. So 33.5% of those are adults, 22 years of age or older. Our organization is completely, kind of like I said before, we run our whole program in the state of Kentucky off of a staff of 16. So without our volunteers, we would not exist whatsoever. So 1 billion coaches worldwide and roughly 190 competitions a day. So that's pretty impressive to see that at all levels of the program, that we provide that many sporting events to our populations that we serve. And the big one is physically, mentally, and socially is the rewards reaped from our program that our athletes receive. For some of our athletes, it is the physical. For some of our athletes, they do not come out to participate for the athletic side, but the dance at the end of the competition for the social interaction. So some of our athletes participate to get to the dance. Some of the Kentucky facts. This isn't to tear anybody. The state of Kentucky has roughly 4.3 million. So that's roughly almost 110,000 individuals with intellectual disabilities in the state. Right now, we serve just over 7,400 athletes at the end of this year's census. Almost 7,000 coaches, or 7,000 certified volunteers. Real quick, just to kind of distinguish those so you have a gauge, we have what we call day of event volunteers and then also certified volunteers. Day of event are any volunteer that comes out to our events to help assist in either officiating, running a stopwatch, things of that nature. Our certified volunteers are those that are going to have regular responsibility interactions with our athletes. So our coaches, our bus drivers, our medical staff, our board members, and things of that nature. So all of our certified volunteers go through a national background check. So we want to make sure everybody's safe, and I get to see all those goodies. No, just kidding. 492 of those are sports certified of our coaches. Out of that, roughly about 1,500. So that means that of those coaches, they have either have the sport knowledge, so they've got a history of coaching soccer, or they've gone through our coach education program, and we've provided that training to them on the rules and training and preparing of training sessions. It might be simply them understanding the rules for the first time. But we'll take care of all that and provide those coaches, because a lot of those coaches are family members. They're the moms and dads coming out to provide that for their son or daughter. And in the state of Kentucky, we hosted just over 300 competitions at the local, area, regional, and state levels last year. So we're almost one a day, but close to, and that's state tournaments. It could be league play for softball, things of that nature. Within our state, we kind of break things down a little bit different. One is our individual sports. We have 9 areas. And this kind of coincides with Kentucky High School Athletic Association map a little bit. That's where we went off of it from. But the team sports is a little bit different because of the variance in participation around the state. We break it down into 3 regions on there. Sports season, we do host 15 sports of the recognized 32 Olympic sports, recognized by Special Olympics International. And for a lot of our athletes, they participate year-round. For some, it's overlapping seasons, so they'll go straight from track and field to golf, to sometimes our golf players are playing softball during the same season. And there's other athletes that will not participate in anything other than, say, aquatics. So they'll train in aquatics year-round, which is completely fine. Which I think Ball is actually one of those athletes that trains just in aquatics.
Actually, he does softball.
Does he do softball?
Well, he didn't do it this year, but he does softball.
Did he? Okay. This is a video clip I'm going to let play real quick to introduce kind of our Project Unify. This was a video. I will say it has 1 cuss word, so I apologize. I can have you later. But it was a video that was produced for the Spread the Word, the End the Word on there.
It's just basically that's it. When the going gets tough, give up. That's what you're good at. A chance to change your whole lifestyle. Look, I'm a man. Look, I'm a winner. Now show some backbone. Dig down deep and go kick that Todd's ass. If you ever say that word to me again, I mean it. These guys are my friends.
I don't use that word anymore, the R word, not because I'm politically correct. I got far from politically correct. I don't say it because it hurts my friend Eddie. And honestly, I don't think most people, I think most people don't say it to be mean or insensitive. They just never thought about it, that it is being mean or insensitive. And, hopefully, it'll make people think about it.
Oh my gosh, for the love of flies. You scratch my CD. And I think that they shouldn't use that word because it hurts people. Why would you want to hurt people?
Working on that film completely changed the way I thought about people with a mental disability, and Eddie's my best friend now,
So you're working on the computer there? No, I'm locking that door.
Don't pity them, don't talk down to them. You know, be open to them. It's just be open to them, be open to people. It changed my life. I think it could change yours.
Right, talk to them, be their friend, love them, hug them, do anything to raise the spirits of people with different abilities, like God taking something away from them in one area and make them extraordinary in other areas.
That's perfectly put, Eddie.
Break down the walls, break down the stereotypes, break down every wall you can. I break them. I broke that obstacle. The obstacle will never get in my way. And if anybody puts me down and makes fun of me, you know what? They're not my friend. I have this friend. That's all I have.
And if anyone makes fun of you, you are going to verbally assault them till they feel about this big.
No, I would not. I would put somebody in their mouth and wash them out until the hard word it's not in their mouth anymore.
Eddie does a neat job. I've had the opportunity to meet Eddie, and that is Eddie 110% in the raw. But the big thing about Johnny Knoxville is a lot of people associate him being kind of crazy and wild, but he is a really big advocate for our program through the Spread the Word in the Word campaign. If you watch a couple of his other movies, you'll actually see Eddie in the background goofing off with everybody. So it's truly a lifelong friend that Johnny made out of Eddie. And Eddie out of Johnny. So,
wait, who's that? Johnny who?
Johnny Knoxville. He's the one that's behind all the Jackass movies.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's why I don't know.
Yeah. So he's a little wild and crazy, but a lot of our advocates for our program have come into fruition this year with the World Games, which has really been neat to see. But Spread the Word in the Word is kind of where we started the Project Unify, and it's a campaign that's the first weekend of March of every year. That's a day set aside on that Wednesday, the first Wednesday, for signing the pledge, and that's removing the word, our word, and replacing it with respect. So a lot of our schools participate in this program. It's the easiest one of those initiatives within Project Unify to participate in. But it also is a very easy way to bring the awareness to our population, because a lot of our athletes, they will get offended by the word child. It's no different than the word retarded for some of our athletes, because they're adults. They're no different than you or I. When they turn 21, they can drink a beer. And they will be the first ones to tell you that too. So that's where it started. Project Unify is an education-based program that is using youth as the catalyst for change. So it is a school-based program that is approved. It's almost an anti-bullying curriculum, but it is completely approved by the Department of Education. This past year, we saw breakthrough with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, where we partnered with them to host Unified Track and Field. That was our pilot program last year, which these two pictures down at the bottom we had 3 schools participate in that this year at the state meet, and obviously on any of the track meets that they attended to. But it was Murray was the primary school, which within our state, they are the ones that have embraced Project Unify the most.
Is that a high school?
Yeah. It's out of Murray, Kentucky, down in Callaway County. But there's many parts to it. I've got a toolkit that I can provide anybody that is interested in it that breaks it down and gets the youth to form youth activation committees, Educational Learners Network, and things of that nature, so that they are building opportunities of inclusion, or moving students from segregated classrooms into the mainstream. I should have put the next clip. I should have put a clip on here from Wave 3 on Unified Sports. Unified Sports is one of the easiest competition-wise, because there's 3 different levels. One is recreational, so that is a group of peers deciding that they're going to go and play kickball for the next 6 weeks in PE class, inclusive. It might be the following week picking a different sport. There's also the side of developmental. So that is the varsity basketball players coming out and training with the athletes that are interested in the sport of basketball. So they're developmentally taking those athletes to a new level, teaching techniques, things of that nature. And then there's obviously the competitive level, which Jefferson County Public Schools, we started with 9 schools 3 years ago to this year. We had an overall interest of 14 with 13 of those participating. And then I just found out this past week that there are now 26 schools interested in Jefferson County of some sort of aspect to either the developmental, recreational, or competitive from high school down to middle school. So that is going to be some news to see this coming fall, see what comes out of that. But the Unified Sports program within Kentucky in our mainstream program is very strong and individual. We hosted team sports, and because the main concept behind Unified Sports is that when you walk out onto that competition arena, you do not know who the individual is with intellectual disabilities and who is without. That is the main idea. For some of our competition directors, that kind of put a bad taste in their mouth because they were putting ribbons on athletes. It kind of defeats the purpose. So we stuck with what we were very comfortable with at being successful with, and that was the individual sports. So golf, and things that, golf, bowling, track and field relays, aquatics relays. 3 years ago we introduced bocce unified, and we initially just had 3 courts at our state summer games. This past year we had 9, primarily because of the unified division. So that's really neat to see, because that is taking the unified aspect from the competition field and taking it outside, because those are going to be lifelong friends that are established, that they're going to invite those individuals to Super Bowl party, or they're going to go out to dinner. They're going to do other things other than the sports training and be included. It's going to build that confidence for that athlete one-on-one that they might not simply have. Inside the brochure information I gave you, there's an article from CNN that describes that, and it was something that when Sherry emailed me, or Sherry emailed Trish, our CEO, and connected me with coming tonight, that actually popped up that same day that we locked in to be coming. So it's a really neat article. So if you haven't already taken a chance to read it, check it out. It goes through basically what our program is capable of. It's taking aspects of that sports rules engagement that those athletes then take it outside of the playing field and use it for a job. Building that confidence to be able to go into a job interview maybe, or maybe it's speaking. We've had athletes that have been completely nonverbal, and I'll give an example of that here in a minute with our athletes leadership program, that you don't get them to be quiet very often, very much now. So it's really neat to see on that line. Obviously, this is something that was well needed. It was a youth-led and athlete-led aspect of the program, that athletes that came into our program at 18, 19, 20, 30 years of age said, what would I have been if I had started in this program earlier? Where would I be now? So 2 to 7 years of age is our Young Athletes program. We do, it's completely written out. It's a 6 to 8 week plan of just play activities, socialization, hand-eye coordination, things of that nature. We have Brittany Abel is our Field Service and Youth Initiative Director, oversees the Young Athletes program, and through grants through PNC we are able to provide a kit that gives the hula hoop, gives the throwing stars and things of that nature to participate in the program. So that's all at no cost. So anybody can put it together and run it. We're actually going to be partnering with the Child Development Center, Bluegrass, this fall to host within their facility the Young Athletes program for their students. So that's going to be a connection with them, and then also one of the UK classes, so that we're integrating Project Unify aspects of those students that would graduate high school, go into college, and be like, well, I'm done with Project Unify. No, you're not. You can provide back. So now you're running Young Athletes programs, you're running and leading the Youth Activation Committee for your state, possibly, and things of that nature. So there's a college aspect to it. So we're working to provide as many opportunities for our athletes through teaching and educating the masses, essentially. One of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is the aspect of our, I think somebody said it, our MedFest is one of those initiatives. The percentages are mind-boggling for athletes in our programs that have come through and received dental screenings or any vision screenings and things of that nature that need corrective lenses, have active tooth decay. For a lot of our athletes, are on multiple medications, so those medications compound and affect differently those individuals. So it might be weight gain, it might be attitude, things of that nature. It might be something that contributes to bone density loss. So a lot of those things people don't realize, and the availability of those screenings to those athletes are non-existent. It's one of the programs that we are blessed to have Dr. Holder. Dr. Holder sits, you can see his laundry list of items. He was actually on the 30 for 30 clip on ESPN talking about the health initiatives. But any of our state games, Dr. Holder has helped with the MedFest and providing those medical professionals to come for our athletes to receive dental screenings, to receive vision screenings. And if they need glasses, if they need dental care, they're going to have and receive that follow-up at no cost. Because for any of our program, athletes in our program, they participate at no cost. And everything's provided within that. Athletes leadership. This is a neat one because Dustin Plunkett is one of the ESPN commentators for the World Games. And he is a product of the Athletes Leadership Program. This is, again, a real quick clip that I'll just let play and then we'll talk about it.
My name is Scott, and I was there at the first Special Olympic Games at Soldiers Field in 1968. People thought we couldn't be athletes, but they were wrong.
Hi, I'm an athlete leader, and I just ran my first half marathon. And I can't wait to teach other athletes what I have just learned.
I'm an athlete leader, and I manage our program's Facebook page, and I'm learning to be a photographer.
I teach athlete leaders how to speak in public, and I love to watch their skills and their confidence grow.
I'm an athlete leader, and this is my car, and I teach my school.
I teach athlete leaders about governance so they can be on boards and committees and help make the decisions that guide Special Olympics.
Special Olympics has given me so much. Athlete leadership is my way of giving back. We are trained athlete leaders, giving voice to each person with an intellectual disability. We coach, serve on boards, give speeches, volunteer, and raise money. Are you ready to support athlete leaders? I'm an athlete leader. This is my video.
So athlete leadership was something that started out as global messengers. So it's training athletes to be essentially advocates for our program. Getting up and speaking, it might be in front of sponsors, it might be welcoming guests at a conference, it might be coming out to opportunities like tonight and providing input about the program. It might be social interactions. One of the neatest opportunities that I didn't personally get to witness, Trish, our CEO, got to witness it, was one of our athletes was at a Tippecop, which is with our law enforcement torch run, so it's one of our development events, and they had a couple come in that were deaf. The Red Robin hostess flipped out. She did not know what to do. They immediately started signing, and she just walked away. Went to find her manager. And our athlete came out of nowhere and just started signing. And we're like, where did this come from? And Jeremy went as far as went and basically had lunch with them. Ordered for them, everything, and then when his mom showed up, Trish walked over and she's like, you know Jeremy can sign. My Jeremy? Didn't even know it. The mom didn't even know it. He had learned it at his day program and had completely understood it, captured it, and used it without any sort of saying that he needed to, of coaxing. So that's kind of where this program has evolved to. We've got long way back. All of our programs are accredited. So there's certain things that Special Olympics International says that we have to do to meet accreditation standards. Some of those are just simple checks-offs, which one of those happens to be athlete on the board, on your board. So that used to be a token position for us. We're proud to say that that is not the case anymore. We've had 3 athlete leaders that have sat on our board of directors, and some of it has gotten evolved to where they're providing a real strong program report from an athlete's perspective. Until this past board meeting, we had an athlete, Luke Rudder out of Northern Kentucky, step up and do it in a way that we did not see coming. He contacted every single local coordinator and said, what's up in your program? Wrote it down, and it was something that was constructive for us to be able to come back and say, as a staff and as a board, where do we need to move the direction of our program? Where are our issues from our athletes' perspective? So within the state of Kentucky, we have a lot of these athletes participating. That athlete that I was going to give you the example of is Ryan Bartz out of Scott County. He is autistic, and his mom basically kicked him out of the house. And that was a situation of him coming home from school, playing video games, and that's all he did. So he got active in our program, started running. He's now traveled the world with Special Olympics. He went to Athens, Greece at the last World Games, and he will not shut up. It's awesome, because you'll get in the car and you'll have a conversation to wherever the event is that you're going to, because he's a global messenger. I don't have the picture up here. Ryan's instrumental in our DHL plane pool. He is completely the responsibility for why that event came to.
What'd you call it?
Our DHL plane pool out in Northern Kentucky. They came through with a $90,000 check last year, and I contribute that to 110% to Ryan Bartz for his telling what he gains from our program. So that's where it is, because I can get up here and talk about Special Olympics all day long until I'm blue in my face, and I have no weight compared to what an athlete gets up and speaks and says, this is why, on there. So that's where this program started, and that's where it's going. Indiana, Lynn Doyle was on that photo, she was on that clip. She's the one that teaches governance for SO in Indiana in Southern Florida. Her and her husband are retired Purdue University professors, and this is what they do. They have evolved that program to an Alps University structure to where they're not teaching, athletes are teaching. They've evolved to have athletes that have said they might be completely nonverbal, but they have a story to tell. So we're going to teach PowerPoint so that athlete can have their story shared. Touché. We had a conference, or it was more of a summit, basically to take out the next 3 years for strategic planning for our athletes leadership program in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the athletes came back and were saying online. And within that room, there's about 50 of us, of CEOs, predominantly athletes, parents, program staff, that were sitting in the back saying, nope, 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 online's not the way to do it. You can't do it. Because we know that an athlete needs, at times, opportunities to have a partner, Unified partner, Project Unify, to be there during those trainings to maybe define a word that they don't understand or something of that nature. And we immediately said, you can't do that online. And then they immediately said, my partner will be sitting here next to me while I take the course. Okay. What about for an athlete that can't read? I can record it. They can hit play. Okay. What about a word that they don't understand? They can right-click on it because an athlete might be able to understand it when it's heard but not read. So I right-click on it and it says the word to them. If I left-click, it says the definition. So where are we going? So it's those type of things that the Athletes Leadership Program is taking our program to the next level and into the future. And it's all Catalyst for Change, Project Unify, of those students coming up and working with athletes to build that confidence, to teach things outside of the traditional competitor. Because we've got athletes as coaches, athletes as umpires. Ryan Bart's umpired our state softball tournament with his dad 2 years ago. So it's really neat to see that program evolve in our state. Don't want to go touch on it a whole lot, but Coach Education Program, it is something that's there. So there's no worry, because within our state there is times that it might be far eastern Kentucky where they might have to travel an hour and a half to get to a practice. So that's maybe sometimes not feasible. So we will provide that training to that parent or that coach that might have no clue what bowling is, but provide them that skill so they can train on their own independently, as an example of that. I mentioned that all of our services to our athletes are provided at no cost. All that's through fundraising. And I am proud to say that you've heard March of Dimes. I shouldn't say this. March of Dimes is one of those editing things. The reason why they call it dimes is because 10 cents out of every dollar goes to their program. The rest of it's administrative and things of that nature. Over 80% of over 80 cents of every dollar goes to our program athletes, non-administrative costs. It's one of those things that for a lot of the programs, the athletes are the ones that have stepped up and said, I want to fundraise. We've had athletes that we had the Unified Relay across America that sold segments to be able to carry the torch to LA. And athletes were raising $25,000. And they were going and running in the relay. So that's where a lot of our funding comes from. Is donuts. Our law enforcement torch run is a huge supporter, and it's twofold. One is it's a security thing for having law enforcement at our events. For some of our athletes, seeing that officer in blue is reassurance that they might be able to come out of their shell because they know that they're in an environment of acceptance and of family. So they know that they're safe to do whatever they want, as opposed to being out in public and maybe aren't sure of certain situations. So that's one aspect of the law enforcement torch run, but the other is fundraising. They'll jump on top of Krispy Kremes and hackle customers until they get the money that they want to raise. for that day.
Do they do that in Lexington?
Down on Richmond Road.
What time of year?
It varies. They will sometimes do 3 or 4 of them. They'll sometimes not do any that year. It just really depends. For example, up in Northern Kentucky this past weekend, they decided to do a dodgeball tournament and had completely run a dodgeball tournament and had registrations and teams come in, and that's the way they raised their goal.
Police officers did that?
Mm-hmm. They called it Dodgy Cop. But trivia night, and then obviously our key events each year is our polar plunge, jumping into ice cold water. Last year's polar plunge in Lexington, they actually chipped off 3/4 of an inch of ice off the pool. Yeah, it was cold. And we had one plunger that we plunged every hour throughout the event. That was his thing. That's one of the awards that can be received because they do that award. They do costume contests. They do team chant contests and things of that nature. Plane pool and truck pools. Truck pool is in Lexington and Paducah, and then we do plane pools in Louisville and Northern Kentucky. And I said before, no volunteers, no Special Olympics. It is an organization that's completely run off the support of our volunteers. And these are just some of the photos of our volunteers. I mean, it's truly sometimes not the athlete that's life's changed. Sometimes it's our volunteers that have an impact. I'm proud to say that the Georgetown College men's soccer program, I got them out one Frankfurt tournament, and the guys that returned immediately were asking coach when they got on campus, when are we coming? So that became their event, and they evolved because, I mean, you got a whole squad of 30 guys coming out, and that's a whole lot more volunteers than is needed for that tournament. And they will become honorary coaches and sit on the bench with the athletes and get involved that way. There'll be fans in the stands cheering the athletes on, helping during warm-up and things of that nature. So they made opportunities to be involved in that event. And that's Aaron, our team sports directors. So don't think that we sit on our officials, but that's just, they have a good time at state tournaments. And then I've got one last video. I think I'm probably way over time, but
no, you're not. You're good.
Okay. This is just one example of many that I can provide, and this just happens to be one that was 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago. The story came out, and he introduced the First Lady at the opening ceremonies last night, on Saturday night. So I'll let you watch it. And the biggest thing is no matter who you are in the world, you've got ambitions, you've got goals in life. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, they view individuals with intellectual disabilities as not having those. And this is just one example that says whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish. And for anybody that's in our program, I have obstacles, our athletes have obstacles, and I'm probably 99.9% sure that the athletes in our program are way more resourceful in finding routes around the obstacles or ways to get over those obstacles. So this is one of those great examples of that.
I am so excited to go to work, so I do
It's a dance of magic. You serve breakfast, lunch, and hugs. Hugs are the best part. I am Tim Harris, and this is my place. Oh yeah. Hey guys, welcome to my place. How you doing? Very good. How are you? Hold on, I'm the best part, buddy. I love you. Have you been here before? I've never been here before. Well, I'll stand from the owner. Tim's place is the special place to be at. Because it's one and all for my food. You guys are doing a great job back here. I love you guys. You guys are the best cooks ever. I was a kid. I wanted to own a restaurant. And I asked my dad to help me out. I'm very glad I did. Thank you, Dad. I love you so much. You too, man. You're retarded.
When he was about 14 years old, he told us that someday he was going to own a restaurant. After we all gulped and gasped, we began to take him seriously, and the result is he's training.
Best part of me is I can live out my dreams.
I'm amazingly proud of my brother. Just what he's accomplished in his lifetime. I mean, people can only dream, you know.
I love you all.
As far as we know, we have not yet found another person with Down syndrome in this country that owns a restaurant. We hope that other people will know.
My favorite part of all is the people coming through that front door. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
It's really sad. I give them a hug and they feel a lot better.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm sorry, wait for little food. Yeah, food is food, so. I double hug. Yeah, double hug. Love you guys. I'm a mean hugging machine.
So let me get this straight. So you're a restaurateur and
a
special limited athlete, and you want to go
Oh yeah. I do not let my disabilities plus the dreams. People with disabilities can get anything they set their minds to. They're special. We are a gift to the world.
So it was neat to see because I didn't know that Tim was going to be at the opening ceremonies. And when he got up there, he introduced Michelle Obama, and then he immediately turned, and as she was coming out, stopped her and gave her a pep talk to the podium. You didn't know what he's saying, but you could just tell that that's what he was doing. It was completely awesome. But obviously, it's a great example, and it's just one of those things that each day that I get up and go to the office, there's anything like anywhere else. There's times that you get frustrated, but there's the times that you walk into the office and Morgan's there, or John's there, or Leanne's there, and our athletes are in the office, and it becomes the Johnny Knoxville clip, and that puts it all in perspective of laughs, good times, and things. So I'll open up to questions if you have any, and I'll leave it there. Shoot.
Well, I'm just really excited about the project Unify. Of course, we all wish stuff like that would have been around when our kids were younger. And I had a few questions. One thing is, I noticed on your statistics it said that only 35% or something of the athletes were adults. And that really surprised me because I've always thought of it as more of an adult program. And I don't know if that's because you were looking at the statistics from the whole world, or
yep. That's global statistics for a majority of. Unfortunately, for a lot of our athletes, they do not have a transition. So once they do get out of school, they are able to stay to that 22 years of age, and some of them do stay, or some of them don't. But after that point, there's not, since a lot of the programs are school-based, special education teachers are a majority of our coaches. So once they do graduate, there's unfortunately not a program that is in the local communities to transition into.
You're talking about as far as unified sports?
Or not even just unified, just mainstream. So, kind of an example, I'm wanting to say it's Meade County. Just did this transition where, because it was unfortunately a lot of red tape that came into play, they kept a lot of their graduates participating in their program. So they were still school-age kids participating, and it became an issue where busing for the school was not a problem, but athletes that had graduated and were still being bused became an issue. Yeah. So what they've done is they have gone and said, this is the school-based program, this is the graduate program, so that those team sports sometimes are still playing together. So you might have a 23-year-old playing with a 16-year-old or whatnot, but they're two separate for the sake of the school and things of that nature. It's there.
So you're saying a lot of the smaller communities don't, like, I mean, Lexington has a very active Special Olympics for adults, but you're saying some of the smaller communities may not have that.
Right. Right.
Is there any thought or movement toward moving Unified Olympics into the older age group? Or unified sports, I mean?
It depends on the program. We are in the very early stages. Project Unify, we are in the 3rd year of developing that within the state of Kentucky. Other programs, specifically the New England states, they will completely, everything's integrated into the schools. So there's not really a mainstream traditional program. Theirs is all unified. Other states, they will have where you've got the unified school, and then you've got outside unified programs. So it just really depends on the state. Athlete interest is one aspect, but some of it is up to the state to decide, ultimately.
Well, I would be supportive of that.
So, I mean, obviously we've got the plans to move the mainstream outside the schools. So, individual sports is obviously a perfect example of that. Golf is predominantly adult participation. Bocce is obviously is one of those sports that we introduced for a lot of our athletes that were aging out that maybe would just completely stop participating because they're not physically able to run the 100 meters or whatnot. So bocce was something that they could easily not have to run, but it was more of a mental thinking game and strategic for those athletes. So a lot of those athletes that participate in Unified are adults for bocce for us.
But I mean, if you do unified sports and individual sports, how does that work? Because you're not on a team. Are you still kind of on a team? You're just
for aquatics, it's relays. So 2 athletes to 2 partners participating in that one relay. Track and field's the same way. And then obviously individual sports like bowling and golf. Golf would be alternate shot, so it's kind of a scramble-esque rule base, but you're alternating shots back and forth. Bowling, you are adding scores together. So it's your partner scored and the athlete scored combined to get the division done.
Well, I think it's great. I'm really excited.
Because I mean, ultimately, it's one of those hard things when it comes to team sports, because you don't want, when you get to the competitive arena, you don't really want athletes that, or not athletes, but partners that are varsity basketball playing basketball. Just because you've got the ability levels so far apart.
I'm thinking like kickball, like everybody knows how to play kickball.
Right, and that's where the recreational would be that completely. A perfect example of that, one of our local softball teams does a family day. So the parents scrimmage the athletes. That's unified, that's recreational unified. That would be an example of that, doing the kickball, coming together just for fun. Northern Kentucky does a lot. Owensboro does a lot with things like that. They do fishing one day, and it's more of a social participation. Fishing and volleyball is one of them. Tennis, but from
This is for the schools, you mean?
nope.
Oh.
No, that's just the local program doing it. So within the schools, Jefferson County's right now, because they had was Jefferson County active when you were there with us. That we walked away from and came back to with the support of UPS. To basically restructure that program that was already in place. So you have meaningful interaction on the court. So it's competitive. You walk out on the court. There's obviously rules differences for partners in that, but there's different ways that you can identify partners versus athletes. It might be, for the referee's purposes, it's evens, numbers, odd numbers, things of that nature, because it just depends on the sport or the developmental level of that sport for the rules. But for the spectators' purposes, playing field's even. You don't know, and not just. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I just like it because there's some other sports that are more accessible here, but they use a buddy concept.
Okay.
And so it's pretty obvious who the buddies are versus who the athletes are. But I really like that they're just all on the team together.
What school are we talking?
I'm talking about like
Tops,
Miracle
soccer,
League and Top
yeah.
Soccer. And,
Okay.
You know, Miracle League does baseball, they have a football, flag football, and a basketball thing.
Right.
But the typical people aren't competing. They're just there to facilitate.
Right.
But I like the model better where everybody's basically equal.
Right. It's a matter of time for us to develop it. I mean, it's not going to be snap of the fingers and it's going to happen overnight. It's a big restructuring, and the restructuring comes a lot of what I'm doing tonight, explaining it. I'm trying to do the best of explaining it to everybody that wants to participate. Other questions?
Is there a young man that's in Lexington that is a young man with autism that is a Special Olympics national leader?
National, we have never had one of our global investors
I know that Forsyth is a...
Oh, USA Games.
USA Games.
Yes.
Yes, so
yes.
we feel very honored to have him to be... Well, no, it's so cool. And there's other athletes too, but I think that what's so powerful is that he's an individual that he swims and he has kind of worked his way up, and there were other people on the team, but I just think he's a part of our community, and I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, I went with Walton, New Jersey. Philip Riley. Philip was his coach for USA Games out of Jessamine County. All of our athletes have that opportunity. It just depends on, it's a lottery, is what it comes down to. For what essentially, like we didn't know going into it that we could say that we want to take a flag football team, but we might not get that opportunity. It's what Special Olympics North America comes down and says, here's what you're allocated. It might be 2 swimmers, it might be 3 swimmers. Like for example, World Games, we got allocated a bowler, a swimmer, and a gymnast, but one of the gymnasts from one of the other states dropped out, so we got to send Lee Dawkins on that. So, but all those athletes had to participate at USA Games to be eligible to go to World Games. But yeah, vol was awesome.
Yeah, we all live somewhere else now. Oh, you said vol was awesome, and I said you all live somewhere else. Vol's pretty fantastic. Parents always have a different perspective.
Right.
But I misspoke earlier. I think you said something about Bob only played one sport.
I thought so.
Bob played soccer, softball, and does swimming.
Okay.
But doesn't compete all the time. I mean, he decides when he's going to participate.
Because I knew he always did. I've always seen him at swimming.
Always swims.
At all the swimming competitions, but I've never seen at other events. I've never seen him play.
Yeah.
So. One of the other neat stories out of USA Games. Let's see if I can put that picture on here. This gentleman right here. There's a lot of other aspects that go into the selection of athletes for USA Games. Some of it is, are they going to be able to stay away from mom and dad for an extended period of time? Are they able to travel? And those are all questions that we ask in the selection of those athletes that, because for divisioning purposes, we might have a bowler come out and say that he's within this number of pins to go to USA Games. So then that goes to our state games who won gold in this divisioning section for us to pull from for USA Games. We didn't know at that time that Jesse Pennington needed headphones to fly. So we got to the airport, got ready to board the plane, and Jesse would not go. And it was the most unbelievable learning experience, not just for him, but for me too, because I stayed back with him, and he called his mom and said, Jesse didn't get on the plane, you're going to have to come get him. And 45 minutes later, Jesse and I talked, and you could immediately see Jesse's transition of understanding that he didn't, at that first start of the conversation, didn't care that he wasn't going. Then it transitioned into, I'm letting my teammate down. And then it transitioned into, I'm letting my state down. And then mom picked him up, about an hour went by, and I got a phone call. I needed an address. An address? Yeah, for the dorms. His mom drove him all the way there, got in that night, or that following morning, about 4 o'clock, after getting lost in New York, and then turned right back around and drove home. It's a 14-hour drive.
Here to New York?
Yay, moms.
Yeah. So she didn't even stay up here.
So she turned right back around.
But he was able to fly back?
Nope. That was the, because we couldn't take the chance that he wasn't going to get on the plane again, because then he might not be able to get home then. So it was under the stipulation that she had to have somebody come get him. So she got up that next morning at the end of the week, drove out there, got him, drove all the way back, straight back. She works nights, if I understood right. But to see Jesse's expression and excitement completely makes it understand where he went from, because the scores that they came up with weren't close to what they did at state games. He worked so much harder because he realized and put 3 things together to get to the USA game. It's an awesome story. And to see that, I've got it. You know how you can hold down your, for the folks that have iPhone, you can just hold your camera button and it just, I've got that whole sequence of him getting up on stage when he got off.
Which one is he in there?
He's the athlete on the right. Yes, he's right here.
Okay.
Cheerleading story then. And there's so many interweaving connections with our program. It's unbelievable. My wife works at the UK Neonatal Children's Hospital. And we did not know it until this year's summer games. What was the only slide? That she actually took care of this young gentleman in the NICU.
Oh.
For the first 8 months of his life. And they were put together. He's one of the polywogs out of Winchester for the STRIDE program.
The other gentleman, did he ever get on a plane to travel after that?
Well, we actually found out that he had flown in March. We left in June. Jesse had actually flown in March to Disney World.
But with his headphones.
Yeah, with his
Right.
headphones.
Did they just forget to pack his
Yeah, I'm
headphones?
wondering.
I don't know.
That would be pretty
Yeah,
sure.
instead of driving to New York, just bring the headphones.
Well, you know, by then, once it's a problem for the kid, it's not happening that day, that week.
Right.
It's got
Right, but if they would have.
And you've got to be
It
doing
might have been
other
something
things
they
you're
had
thinking
never
of.
done. And things.
They may not have made the connection or something.
At that time, maybe. I mean, even when we took a boat tour around Statue of Liberty one night, a dinner boat tour, and Jesse almost didn't get on the boat because he didn't want to. He just saw the movement of the plank getting onto the boat, the catwalk or wherever you want to call it. So it just depends. You just don't know.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
If there's anything I can do and follow up, any questions that you guys come back with later after looking over that information, please let me know. Anything connection-wise within Fayette County, obviously I want to hear that too, because the best resource we have is our local programs to find new avenues into. It might be a school, it might be a sponsorship, it might be anything, anything that we can do.
Our listserv has got something like, was it 700 now, and I think we've had people that are from outside of the Fayette County that learn, their teachers and family members as well as advocates, and so I don't know how broad how big of a cast that we have, but maybe if we can share information about upcoming events or deadlines or those kind of things. Yeah, just to get the word out, for folks, because that just being physically active. I mean, I think that is just so, important.
Our next steps in terms of Project Unify, obviously, is we're using Jefferson County Unified League and Murray High School as examples. But we are in talks, obviously, with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association to add additional sports. The next step for the schools, though, is to grow our youth activation committee. So that is going to be identifying youth, athletes, and partners to be on our statewide committee to help grow that. So that's going to be our next steps. And then who knows what Jefferson County, what our next steps will be there. I know, hearing 26 schools of interest, that opens a lot of doors, So, but the Youth Activation Committee is one of our next go-to things.
Is there ever a thought, I know with the, that there was some case law in the previous year about that all children with disabilities should not be excluded within the school districts, for programming and physical sports type of activity. Has there ever been discussion where that this would be, is that kind of a possible connection down the road to make those kinds of programs and activities a component of what the school districts are offering? Because we have the football and all these different kinds of sports activities, and sometimes there might be kids with disabilities that could participate, but oftentimes not. Right. And to me, that would be such a nice thing if there was always an opportunity for that whole segment of the population to be able to be involved.
I mean, essentially, we've got athletes that participate in the mainstream in the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. I can think of two here in Lexington. One on the golf team, one on wrestling. Both received varsity letters. That is kind of an example of our New England states, that you go out onto a Friday night and you have the flag football Unify game, you have the JV game, you have the varsity game, freshman play on Saturday. So that would be ideal for us. That's where I would love to see things happen. But it's just going to be a matter of getting there. So our partnership with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association is going to help that, because we've obviously had 3 teams participate in the state track meet this past year. And I know, talking with a couple of the other school districts, that there's going to be more participation there next year.
That's exciting.
Any questions?
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys allowing me to come. Thank you.